The challenge of sense door activation. Observing the task involved in activating a sense door is rather difficult because these operations take place very rapidly. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching are not slow, deliberate processes. However, if you can interrupt the process at regular intervals to identify the activity itself, the established trend can be disturbed. This can reduce the speed at which the sense door activation process develops into a powerful emotional response. Imagine seeing a disturbing image. The first instant may involve recognition. Then comparison may occur. A sensation may arise. The sensation may then become stronger. And finally, an emotional reaction may appear. If awareness can interrupt this sequence at an early stage, the entire process may lose some of its momentum. Again, the objective is not to fight the image. It is to understand and interrupt the automatic process that follows the image. Why this does not normally disturb daily activities? It is important to understand that the control process described above does not have to interfere with normal day-to-day activities. The response is required only after awareness detects the basic changes taking place in the body. If there is no threat and no significant emotional reaction, there is no need to divert resources toward emotional control. Therefore, ordinary activities can continue normally. For example, while working, studying, speaking with another person, or performing a routine task, there is no need to continuously monitor every sensation. The intervention becomes relevant when awareness detects the early signs of an emotional reaction. In that way, the technique is intended to be economical rather than disruptive. Do not expect miracles. There is one more important point. This approach is not intended to guide people in overcoming serious phobias that have developed into mental disorders. It may nevertheless be useful for relatively minor problems. Therefore, do not expect miracles. The purpose is to develop a useful skill gradually through practice. Even a small improvement can be valuable. If a reaction that previously became very strong can be reduced to a mild response, that itself is meaningful progress. The important thing is to recognize the gradual development of the skill rather than expecting an immediate transformation. An additional benefit, better concentration. There is also an additional benefit from developing the skill of focusing on activities. When attention becomes less vulnerable to unnecessary distractions, concentration can improve. As distractions are minimized, a person can perform tasks with greater accuracy. Efficiency can also improve. For example, when attention remains with the activity being performed, instead of repeatedly moving toward unrelated thoughts, the quality of work can improve. This can apply to reading, writing, walking, eating, working, or many other ordinary activities. Therefore, the skill is not useful only for dealing with unpleasant emotional reactions. It can also contribute to better concentration and greater efficiency while allowing us to remain more fully engaged in whatever we are doing. 10. Conclusion. Today we looked at emotional reactions that can be triggered by static images and objects. We saw that such reactions may not necessarily originate from a personal past experience. They may involve inherited tendencies, survival-related responses, learned behavior, or combinations of these factors. We also saw the importance of recognizing the physical changes that occur at the early stage of an emotional reaction. Awareness can help us identify that critical point. But awareness alone is not necessarily sufficient. The action required may be different depending on the mechanism that produces the emotion. One approach is to develop the ability to focus attention on the activity of seeing, hearing, or another sensory activity, rather than allowing the information and sensation obtained through that activity to immediately dominate attention. This skill may be difficult at first, but complete mastery is not necessary. Even occasional interruptions of the automatic process may reduce the intensity of the resulting emotional response. And importantly, this training can provide benefits beyond emotional control. It can reduce distractions, improve concentration, increase accuracy, and improve efficiency in everyday activities. So the aim is not to expect a miraculous disappearance of every emotional response. The aim is to understand how the response develops, recognize it early, and gradually develop the ability to influence what happens next. In our next talk, we will move to another important category of emotional experience: emotions associated with pain. Pain is different from a frightening image or a static object because it involves a direct bodily experience. Understanding how pain becomes associated with emotion can therefore provide another important perspective on emotional control. Thank you for listening